Imagine a dusty attic, a forgotten box, and a clock that shouldn't exist. In 1887, a young prodigy built something impossible, a timepiece that defied the laws of physics. I'm diving into the story of this mysterious inventor, whose genius was buried by history. Who was this forgotten prodigy? Why did their creation vanish? And how did a clock, crafted with tools that shouldn't have worked, tick for decades? Stick with me as I uncover the secrets of a machine that rewrote what we thought was possible. You won't believe what I found. I first stumbled across this story in an old library, buried in a crumbling journal from 1887. The pages were brittle, the ink faded, but one name stood out: Elias Varnholt, a 17-year-old from a small village in England. He was no ordinary teenager, described as a recluse with an uncanny knack for mechanics. Locals called him the boy who spoke to gears. By age 12, he was fixing watches that baffled seasoned craftsmen. But in 1887, Elias did something extraordinary. He built a clock that, by all accounts, shouldn't have functioned. It wasn't just innovative, it was impossible. The journal hinted at a device that ran without springs or weights. No one could explain how it worked. The villagers were in awe, but also afraid. They whispered of witchcraft. I needed to know more. Elias's clock wasn't just a timekeeper, it was a marvel. The journal described a brass and iron contraption, no bigger than a bread box, with gears that moved in ways they shouldn't. It didn't rely on traditional mechanics, no pendulum, no escapement. Instead, it seemed to draw power from something unseen. Witnesses swore it glowed faintly at night. I dug deeper, finding sketches in the journal, intricate, almost alien designs. Elias claimed he dreamed the blueprints. Was he a genius or something more? The clock ticked perfectly, never needing winding. Yet, the scientific community dismissed it as a hoax. I couldn't stop wondering, what powered this thing? Growing up, Elias was an outcast. His family was poor, his father a blacksmith who didn't understand his son's obsession with machines. I found letters where Elias wrote about feeling called to build something great. By 1885, he was scavenging scrap metal, teaching himself physics from stolen books. He had no formal education, yet his mind was years ahead. The clock, finished in 1887, was his masterpiece. It sat in the village square for months, drawing crowds. But then it vanished. Some said it was stolen. Others claimed Elias destroyed it. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this story. The journal mentioned a local priest who called the clock unnatural. He rallied the village against Elias, claiming the device was an affront to God. I found records of a town meeting where Elias was questioned. He tried to explain his invention, but his words, filled with talk of invisible forces, only fueled suspicion. By late 1887, Elias was shunned. His clock was locked away in a church basement. I wondered, was this just fear of the unknown, or did the clock truly defy explanation? I tracked down the church's archives, hoping for answers. Digging through those archives was like chasing ghosts. Most records from 1887 were gone, but I found a single photograph: Elias, thin and pale, standing beside his clock. The device was mesmerizing, gears interlocking in impossible patterns. I noticed something odd. The photo showed a faint glow around the clock, just as the journal described. Was it a trick of the light, or something else? I cross-referenced with scientific papers from the era. Nothing explained how a teenager could build such a thing. Elias was either a fraud or a genius beyond his time. I learned Elias disappeared in 1888, just a year after the clock's creation. Some said he fled to London. Others claimed he was driven out. The clock was never seen again, but rumors persisted. A 1901 newspaper mentioned a glowing timepiece in a private collection. Could it be Elias's? I contacted historians, but they dismissed the story as folklore. Still, I found a letter from a collector who claimed the clock hummed with energy. My curiosity deepened. What was Elias hiding? And why was his invention erased from history? The more I researched, the stranger things got. Elias's journal referenced patterns in the air that guided his work. It sounded like nonsense, but then I found a modern physicist's paper on electromagnetic fields. Ideas Elias seemed to grasp intuitively. Was he tapping into something science wouldn't understand for decades? His clock, by all logic, Shouldn't have worked. Yet it did for years, according to witnesses. I started to wonder if Elias had stumbled onto a discovery too advanced for his era. I tracked down a descendant of Elias's family, a woman named Clara. She shared stories passed down about her odd ancestor. Elias, she said, believed his clock was more than a machine. It was a key to time itself. Clara had an old sketchbook of his, filled with diagrams of the clock. The designs were dizzying, with annotations about energy loops. I'm no engineer, but even I could see these weren't ordinary mechanics. Clara mentioned a family rumor. Elias's clock was destroyed to keep it secret. The destruction theory didn't sit right with me. Why would someone destroy a masterpiece? I found a 1920s article about a fire in the village church where the clock was stored. Coincidence? Maybe. But the article mentioned strange lights seen before the blaze. I couldn't help but connect it to the glowing clock. Was someone covering up Elias's work? The more I dug, the more I felt like I was unraveling a conspiracy. Elias's genius was too dangerous for his time, and someone wanted it gone. I started to piece together Elias's process. He worked alone, in a shed behind his father's forge, using only crude tools. He crafted gears with precision that rivaled modern machinery. I consulted an engineer who studied the journal sketches. She was stunned. Elias's design suggested an understanding of quantum principles, decades before they were theorized. How could a teenager know this? The engineer speculated the clock might have used ambient energy, like a primitive perpetual motion machine. But that was impossible, wasn't it? The deeper I went, the more Elias's story consumed me. I found a letter he wrote to a friend in 1887, describing voices that guided his work. Not hallucinations, but ideas that came to him in dreams. I wondered if Elias was tapping into something beyond science, intuition, or maybe something mystical. His clock, he wrote, was meant to unlock time's secrets. What did that mean? I started researching 19th century inventors, looking for parallels. None matched Elias's audacity. His work was a singularity, a spark that history snuffed out. I visited the village where Elias lived, now a quiet hamlet. The church still stood, though the basement was sealed. Locals shared stories of a haunted clock that ticked without winding. I laughed it off, but their sincerity gave me pause. One old man claimed his grandfather saw the clock glow blue at midnight. Was this just folklore, or was there truth to it? I couldn't get inside the church, but I found a groundskeeper who remembered a heavy box being removed in the 1940s. Could it have been the clock? Back at home, I pored over Elias's sketches again. One diagram caught my eye, a spiral gear labeled Eternal Cycle. It didn't resemble anything in traditional clockmaking. I sent it to a physicist friend, who pointed out similarities to modern theories of energy conservation. Elias was thinking in ways that shouldn't have been possible in 1887. His clock, she theorized, might have harnessed electromagnetic fields in a way we still don't fully understand. I felt a chill. Was Elias a time traveler? The idea of time travel was absurd, but I couldn't shake it. Elias's writings were cryptic, filled with phrases like, "Time is a river," and "I've built a dam." Was he speaking metaphorically? Or did he believe his clock could manipulate time? I found a 1905 book on obscure inventions that mentioned a Varnhold device, rumored to alter time perception. The author dismissed it as myth, but I wasn't so sure. If Elias's clock was real, what else could it do? I needed to find it. My search led me to an auction house in London, where a peculiar clock from the 1880s was sold in 1973. The description matched Elias's: brass, iron, glowing faintly. The buyer was anonymous, and the trail went cold. I contacted the auction house, but their records were incomplete. Still, they confirmed the clock was unusual and fetched a high price. Why would someone pay so much for a forgotten inventor's work? I started to suspect a deliberate effort to keep Elias's creation hidden. I reached out to a clockmaker who specialized in 19th century pieces. He'd heard of Elias's clock through collector circles. He described it as a legend, a device that shouldn't exist. He speculated it used magnetic fields to sustain motion, a concept barely explored in 1887. But without seeing the clock, he couldn't be sure. I asked if such a thing was possible. He hesitated, then said, If it was, it would change everything we know about mechanics. I was more determined than ever to uncover the truth. Elias's story wasn't just about a clock. It was about a world unready for his mind. I found a diary entry where he expressed frustration at being misunderstood. "They see a boy, not the future," he wrote. His isolation broke my heart. He poured everything into his clock, only to be shunned. I wondered if he gave up after 1887 or kept inventing in secret. The lack of records after his disappearance suggested he vanished intentionally. Where did he go? I started exploring conspiracy theories, not because I believed them, but because they kept circling Elias's story. Some online forums claimed his clock was seized by a secret society, others by early industrialists who feared its implications. One post even suggested government involvement. I dismissed most of it, but the idea of suppression stuck with me. Elias's clock threatened the status quo. Its power source, if real, could have upended energy science. Was that why it disappeared? I found a 1930s article about a mystery machine displayed at a fair. The description was vague, but it mentioned a clock-like device that ran without winding. Could it have been Elias's? The article noted the machine was dismantled after the fair, its parts scattered. I contacted the fair's historical society, but they had no record of it. The more I chased, the more it felt like someone, or something, wanted the story buried. I wasn't ready to give up. Elias's genius wasn't just technical, it was philosophical. His journal spoke of time as a fabric to be woven. I wondered if his clock was more than a machine, maybe a statement about humanity's relationship with time. I consulted a philosopher who studies temporality. She was fascinated, suggesting Elias might have been exploring metaphysical ideas through mechanics. His clock, she said, could symbolize a rebellion against linear time. It was a stretch, but it made me see Elias in a new light. I couldn't stop thinking about Elias's clock, so I decided to recreate it, or at least try. Using his sketches, I teamed up with a local machinist who was as intrigued as I was. We spent weeks crafting a prototype, but the eternal cycle gear stumped us. Its design demanded precision beyond our tools. Our model was beautiful, brass gears glinting under workshop lights, but it didn't run without power. Still, the process revealed Elias's genius. His clock required not just skill, but a mind that saw beyond his era. I felt like I was touching history, chasing a shadow of his brilliance. How did a teenager do this with 1887 tools? My search took me to a rare book dealer in London, who claimed to have a manuscript mentioning a Varnhold device. The document from 1890 described a clock that defied mechanical law. It was Elias's, no doubt. The dealer let me photograph the pages, which detailed a faint hum and a glow emanating from the clock. I was thrilled but frustrated. Where was it now? The manuscript hinted it was sold to a private collector in 1895. I contacted auction houses, but records from that era were spotty. The trail was faint, but I was closing in. I started wondering about Elias's life after 1888. Did he give up, or keep inventing? I found a 1902 patent filed in Germany under E. Varnhold for a self-regulating mechanism. The description echoed his clock's principles, gears that moved without external power. The patent was rejected, labeled unfeasible. Was this Elias, still fighting to be heard? I pictured him, older, still sketching impossible machines. The rejection must have stung, but I hoped he never lost his spark. His story was becoming personal to me. The scientific world of the 1880s was rigid, I learned. I read journals from the era, filled with skepticism toward unorthodox ideas. Elias's clock didn't fit their rules, so they ignored it. I saw echoes of this in modern science. Geniuses often face pushback. I sent Elias's sketches to a quantum mechanics expert. She was floored, saying the designs hinted at principles like zero-point energy, concepts unknown in 1887. Elias was a pioneer, lost to history's narrow vision. I felt a duty to revive his legacy. A breakthrough came when I found a 1940s letter from a clockmaker who claimed to have seen Elias's clock. He described repairing it in 1925, noting gears that seemed to dance. He couldn't explain its power source, but swore it ran for months unwound. The letter was tucked in an obscure archive, dismissed as a tall tale. I believed it. The clockmakers all matched the journal's accounts. I tried contacting his descendants, but the trail was cold. Still, this was proof the clock existed long after Elias vanished. My obsession grew. I dreamed of the clock, its gears spinning in my mind like a puzzle I couldn't solve. I posted about Elias online, hoping for leads. A collector responded, claiming to own a gear from a Varnholt clock. He sent a photo, a brass spiral, eerily like Elias's sketches. He wouldn't sell or let me examine it, citing legal issues. Why so secretive? The gear's intricate design matched the eternal cycle. I was convinced it was part of Elias's creation. I had to find the rest. The more I uncovered, the more I suspected Elias's clock was hidden deliberately. Its implications, free energy, perhaps, would have threatened 19th century industry. I found a 1900 article about a strange device destroyed in a warehouse fire. The description matched Elias's clock. Was it sabotage? Online forums buzzed with theories, secret societies, jealous rivals. I didn't buy the conspiracies, but I couldn't ignore the pattern. Someone wanted Elias's work erased. I was determined to prove them wrong. Elias's journal hinted at more than mechanics. He wrote of time as a tapestry I can thread. I consulted a philosopher who studies time's nature. She suggested Elias's clock was a metaphor, a challenge to linear thinking. His eternal cycle, gear might symbolize endless possibility. It was a poetic take, but it made me see Elias as more than an inventor. He was a dreamer, pushing against his era's limits. I wondered if he knew his clock's true potential, or if he stumbled into greatness. I tracked down a museum in Vienna rumored to house unexplained artifacts. A curator confirmed they once displayed a peculiar clock in the 1930s, matching Elias's description. It was removed after complaints it disturbed visitors. The curator had no photos, only a log noting its unusual properties. My heart raced. Was this Elias's clock? The trail ended there. The clock was sold to an unknown buyer. I felt close, yet so far. The mystery was alive, and I wasn't giving up. I started to think Elias hid his clock himself. His final journal entry read, "Some truths are too heavy for the world." Maybe he saw the danger in his creation. A device that ran forever could disrupt economies, religions, even science itself. I imagined him dismantling it, scattering the pieces to protect his secret. But then why leave sketches? Was he hoping someone, someday, would finish his work? I felt like that someone was me, driven to honor his genius. The search changed me. Elias's story wasn't just about a clock. It was about resilience, about daring to dream beyond your time. I found a 1910 obituary for an Elias Varnholt in America, a reclusive inventor with no family. Was it him? The age matched, but details were scarce. I pictured him alone, still tinkering, never recognized. His story broke my heart, but it also inspired me. I wanted to tell the world about this forgotten prodigy who built the impossible. I contacted a horologist who studied 19th century clocks. She'd heard whispers of Elias's work in academic circles. If it's real, she said, it would rewrite horology. She analyzed the sketches and noted their precision was almost otherworldly. She theorized the clock used ambient magnetic fields, a concept barely understood today. I asked if it could exist. She paused, then said, "It shouldn't, but I believe it did." Her words gave me chills. Elias was real, and so was his clock. Every lead seemed to end in shadows, but I kept going. I found a 1960s catalog from a private auction, listing a Varnholt timepiece. The description was brief. Brass, self-sustaining, origin unknown. It sold for a fortune to an anonymous buyer. I contacted the auction house, but they stonewalled me. The secrecy was maddening, but it confirmed the clock's importance. Someone somewhere was guarding Elias's legacy. I vowed to find them, to bring his story into the light. This journey is far from over. Elias Varnholt built a clock that shouldn't have worked, yet it did. His genius was buried, but I'm unearthing it, piece by piece. If you're as gripped by this mystery as I am, join me. Subscribe to my channel, and let's chase the truth together. The clock is out there, ticking in some hidden corner. Let's find it and give Elias the recognition he deserves. Stay curious. I'll see you in the next chapter of this incredible story.